This episode is brought to you by TrunkClub.com. Be the best-dressed human in the Maz Jobrani Cantina. TrunkClub.com/CFN.
Greetings, citizens. This is
the final broadcast from an uncertain future.
So I guess they've attacked, and
Yes.
it's over? So this is it, guys. So we're all going to die, and we thought we'd talk about some movies.
So welcome to Comedy Film Nerds.
Yeah, episode 211.
211. It's pretty exciting. After you get into 2, you're like, maybe they'll keep doing it. Maybe you're serious
We're
about
a
it.
third of the way to 633.
Yeah, which is our cancel episode.
633
Yeah.
is when it's done. 633 is the Suicide Pact episode. We're just trying to work out, are we going to do pudding like the Colts or
Shoes.
shoes?
You put on Nikes and you go.
We might do that way.
You got to go comfortably.
So we'll probably have a Kickstarter as to raise some money over how we're going to kill ourselves for episode 633.
So we'll do maybe a little cross training.
Yeah, I guess if you're going to wear the shoes, you probably should be in shape when you go meet your alien lord or whatever those wingbirds do.
Spaceships. The world's going to be recycled.
Yeah, and we're going to
Spaceships
go Andy Warhol haircuts like those clowns did.
Yes. All right. Now we have it planned out. Let's introduce our guest. It's his first time here.
Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, very funny man, comedian, filmmaker, Maz Jobrani.
Hey, how are you guys?
Excellent.
Good.
I'm good.
Good to be here. Good
I'm
to have
coming
you
back
here.
for 633, man. 630, is that what that's? 633? Great. Sounds like a party. That's the real one.
That's what it's all. This is just a lead up to the Suicide Pact cult party.
Oh, yeah.
This is what it's all about.
So you know what Maz was asking us before we started recording?
What?
He's going, what's Trunk Club?
Let's tell him what Trunk Club is.
I think we should. Trunk Club, this is a really fascinating sponsor. This is our new sponsor. And what they do is you sign up for Trunk Club, you get a stylist who actually calls you.
By the way,
this
is for guys.
This is for guys.
This is
by the way,
absolutely
yes.
for guys.
Okay.
Yeah, let's make it clear. Women don't need this.
Yeah.
Don't
Yeah.
need this at all.
But men, we do. I can barely dress myself in the morning, and this is like
and
one
I
of those.
hate and I hate going to stores.
So do I. Hate shopping for clothes.
It's a pain in the ass.
Now, Maz, you can't argue. He looks good.
You're very well.
I got my wife. My wife is my stylist. She is my trunk club. It's called the Wife Club. Wifeclub.com. You get a wife and a stylist.
Wow.
Straight from Russia. They don't speak any English.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was amazing because this was clearly, when I was told what this was, I was like, this was either designed by a guy or I feel like a bunch of women got together and created this.
These guys need help.
Yeah.
All the stylists are women.
Yes.
But you go online, you pick your clothes. You basically
No.
You don't even say.
You
don't even
pick your
say.
clothes. You
do
have no say whatsoever because it's for your own good. It's
No, that's not.
They pick out your clothes and they send it to
Wait
you.
a minute. Let's make sure we do this first ad read correctly.
No, what happens is you get an interview. You actually interview with the stylist, and then you
They
tell
call
them
you up.
you tell them what kind of clothes you like and what styles and all that stuff, and then they actually steer you in certain directions. Like, okay, well, this is good, but what would you like to try this or whatever? So you
Interesting.
get an entire trunk of different types of clothes sent to you, and you pick what you like, and you send back what you don't.
I had a conversation and I go, look, I'm a jeans and t-shirt guy.
Yeah.
I wear a collared shirt twice a year. I have one suit that's for weddings and funerals, and the last 2 times I wore it was 2 funerals. That's all I
2
wear.
funerals and a wedding?
2 funerals and a wedding. Starting Andy McDowell, and and I'll be honest. Part of me was like, what are they? She's going to try.
What are they going to possibly send?
What are they going to send? Me?
But like, what kind of T-shirts does she send you? I mean,
Here's what they did.
how hard is it to pick out T-shirts?
It is. Honestly, though, that's what I was thinking. She said, she goes, and I go, on stage, I'll wear maybe a nicer pair of jeans and like skateboard shoes or something. She goes, are you open to trying some different? I said, yeah, throw some stuff in there. And the T-shirts that she sent, now these clothes are fairly high end.
Yeah, they're a little expensive. They're a little high end.
They're high end. So, but she sent me some T-shirts, and I thought the same thing. Like, how fancy can a T-shirt get?
Right.
The shirt I kept, because you keep the stuff you want and you're charged for it.
Yeah.
And you send back what you don't want. Was this black T-shirt that fits me perfectly, and it has like a little button thing, so it's just slightly classier than the regular black T-shirts
What
I
an
wear.
interesting idea.
I got a similar thing where I said, well, I like a long sleeve or a pullover or something, and some T-shirts, and they send me these clothes. I'm like, these two, they fit perfect, like better than any other T-shirt I've like ever worn. How did you know?
Like,
it was like weird, and I'm like, oh wow. Normally, I don't like
perfectly.
how clothes fit.
This does have to be a female. It's either a woman thing or it's gay guys. Because they like to shop. That's who likes to shop. I mean, I agree. Like as a kid, one of my biggest what pain in the asses was when my mom would take me clothes shopping. I hated going clothes shopping.
I still hate it. I still hate clothes shopping.
And the opposite is like you see a lot of girls love. They're like, we're going to go and go. So some girls were like, hey, we're going to be going shopping anyway. Let's shop for these guys and pick up some and they want women love high-end stuff.
Yeah.
If it were like cheap stuff, I'd be like, it's not a woman. That's a guy that's doing it. Some guy's like, I got an idea. Nobody knows how to dress. They give us their ideas. We go in the discount store, we buy a bunch, we sell it to them for double the price. It's all right. That's a guy. Right? If it were crappy shirts, imagine if it were like nothing matched. You're like, who's the stylist?
Just some asshole.
Yeah, it's Vinny. How you doing?
I don't know. I don't want to be bothered. Just wear his pants. Who gives a shit if they fit or not?
So it was the other thing that's genius about their advertising model is that we're advertising, but they're going to make their money back in probably what Graham and I have bought. So it's really going to be cost neutral for them.
They gave us a little credit.
Yeah.
And then...
But it was like, a little taste, but you're going to want more.
Like a drug deal.
We did.
Yeah. First one's free.
Yeah.
And the other thing I want to make sure, though, people know, it's not like you get a trunk every month and you got to send it back.
It's not like the CD.
It's not like a CD. Yeah.
Right.
Just leave me alone.
Yeah. It's you only get a trunk when you want it, and then you send it back the stuff that you want, and then you're like, hey, I need more clothes. Send me another trunk, and that's it. That's how it works in a nutshell.
And and then they like my stylist like, just do me a favor, try on everything, even if it's something you don't think you like, just so we know size wise how everything fits.
Nice.
And it was great. And like the shoes were like shoes I probably wouldn't wear, so I sent those back. But it was I love it.
Were they tap shoes?
They were tap shoes. The only person who doesn't need this is maybe a straight guy wise is maybe Greg Barrett.
Right.
I was telling him about this, and he's like, he was like, no, go into the store. You guys aren't doing it right. I'm like, Greg,
you don't understand.
You know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So go to trunkclub.com/CFN.
Okay. Love it.
Now, I really want to talk about this movie, The Raid 2. I got to see this movie. Go ahead, but you go first.
I need to say something. I need to address the fans. I have not seen this movie yet. And all of friends, I talked up the first Raid movie so much that everyone's like, I thought you'd be camped out.
Yeah. It's only because you're shooting your own movie that you haven't seen this movie.
That's why I have had no time. It's 2.5 hours long, so we shoot all day and be like, oh, yeah, maybe I'll see a 9 o'clock showing. And then I'm like 8:15. I'm like,
you're burned out.
So that's why I haven't seen it.
See, I'm used to being exhausted, so after a day of shooting, I'm like, all right, I've got another 4 hours.
This is just like having small children.
Yes.
So let me just say, I will see this, and I will talk about it.
What was the Raid 1? I missed Raid 1. What was Raid 1?
Raid 1 is great.
What is it?
It's this movie that came out of Indonesia, and it was a low-budget action film. The choreographers were these amazing Indonesian martial artists. I think it's Indonesian silat is the martial arts style. So there's a tenement basically in Jakarta or something like that that's owned by drug dealers, and a SWAT team has to go in, and they go floor by floor, and it's one badass fight scene after another.
Oh my God.
It's nonstop, and it's amazing.
Ha.
And it was one of those like cult films that came out a couple years ago, and everyone's like, "You got to see this."
Was there is there a plot to it as well, or is it just fighting?
It's a good plot.
Okay.
It's a martial arts movie, so the
it's
a little thin.
Yeah.
It's kind of like martial arts is kind of like porn. Like you just need just enough of a plot. But it was awesome. So then it was kind of like Ong Bak in terms of it was this like buzz within the action film world. And so when the word came out that now they had to make Raid 2, the director said Raid 2 is the movie I wanted to make but didn't have the money to do.
Oh wow.
So that's going into this. All right. So that's
nice.
Okay, so now this movie, clearly, it's bigger, it's larger, it's longer, and it's everything you would kind of expect in a sequel. Now, let me just say that overall, fantastic, but too long. It was really, it's where, just because you have maybe more budget and more freedom doesn't mean you don't necessarily want to go all King Kong. You want to kind of, tighten it up a little bit.
How long was it? Do you know what the running time was?
2.5 hours.
2.5 hours. That's pretty long.
Yeah, it's long, especially
for an action film.
Yeah, for an action films, really need to be a little shorter. Now, it had some great characters. It had some amazing fight scenes. There's like a deaf girl that fights with hammers that's on a subway and literally just cleans house. And it's unbelievable.
That
unbelievable
right
fight.
there,
Unbelievable fight choreography.
That should
it's
be
fantastic.
the tagline.
Yeah.
Deaf girl with hammers on a train.
Yeah. And there's a martial arts fight in the back of a car. He's fighting two guys in the back of a car with that limited space. So, I mean, there's some car chases. There's some amazing martial arts. Now, there is a story, like, yes, the hero goes undercover, but deep undercover, and, there's conspiracy stuff and all that stuff. But it's all, basically it does get a little bit more dramatic here and there, but it never really delves too deep where you're like, this is a really cool drama with the martial arts back. No, it's a martial arts movie with a little bit of drama is really where it is. But that's all what we expected going in. Yeah, that's not, no one's disappointed with that mix when you go in. And there was a couple weird things like, there's a couple cliche things like with a lot of action or martial arts movies, but I was thinking about it too. There's certain expectations you have with a martial arts movie. Like when you see a villain who's a deaf girl kicking ass with hammers.
Wait, the deaf girl's a villain?
The deaf girl's a villain.
Oh, I thought she was going to be a good one.
No.
Okay.
And but when that happens, and then there's another guy who completely cleans house with a baseball bat, and then his finishing move, it's almost like a video game, is he takes the ball and hits the ball at people, and it's absolutely fantastic. Now, when that happens, you're like, oh, that was cool, but then in your head, you're like, there is no way this movie is ending without our hero fighting those two people. Right. I can't. I would feel cheated if that didn't happen. And of course that happened. So I'm like, yeah. So
he does fight them.
Yeah, he does. So there's certain expectations. You're like, you could twist around with the story and stuff, but there's certain stuff that needs to be in there.
Right.
And that was in there. There's a couple weird cultural things like one of the other head mob guys is Japanese, so it's like a yakuza that they kind of share control of parts of the city, and they have a sit down meeting, and the Japanese contingent, they start speaking in English. So, and then afterwards, one of the other guys is like, I can't believe you talk to them in their own language. I'm like, well, wouldn't their own language be Japanese? Why are they talking in English? Why is that so angry? English is spoken everywhere. So there's I wonder if there's some stuff in the translation that kind of got lost a little bit. But there's great fight scenes. Don't expect a ton of plot. There is a little bit. There is some drama to it, but really it's, like I said, it's a little more icing and window dressing. And the movie does move through time back and forth a little bit. So especially at the beginning, when it gets towards the end, it doesn't. But so you're wondering wait, what's going on again? Where am I? He's in a bathroom stall in prison about to get his ass kicked. Now we're in a field where they're, digging graves. It jumps around a little bit, but it's great. If you like the Raid 2, there's no way you're not going to like... If you like the first Raid, there's no way you're not going to like Raid 2.
Love it.
Do people that go to these kinds of movies get high and watch them, or do people that go to these kinds of movies pay attention? Because, there's certain movies that people get high for.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if a movie like this, because it seems like a movie that's too long to get high for, but do you have any knowledge about that?
I think what people do is they come right from the gym and go and sit at this movie and just go, yeah, the entire
That's exactly. I think that's what these types of martial arts films are bringing in an audience coming in that frame of mind.
Right.
I think specifically this film, the hype around it, just the buzz in L.A. The last week, because it premiered here and everyone's been like, oh, I saw it. And it's show business, so people are like, oh, I got to see an advanced screening or I saw it at this festival or whatever. So the buzz on it, I think everybody came like focused.
Yeah.
And is this a movie that opened in Malaysia or wherever, Jakarta, before, and now it's just coming out, or do they do an international release?
I think that happened with the first one, but now that since it got so huge, it was probably the release window was probably much closer.
IMDb listed as the Indonesian release is March 28th.
Okay, yeah, so that window is much closer.
Yeah.
So it's it has like those little hints of like Infernal Affairs and The Departed, like those kind of things, but it never really gets too heavily into that stuff.
Right.
Like, pull me out, no, okay, and then he just starts fighting.
Yeah. Okay, let's fight.
Yeah. So it's great. You're really gonna enjoy it. Just a little too long.
All right.
I saw with Neil, and that's the first thing he said is like, "Well, that was long." But there's places where you're cheering and like, and your mouth just goes up like, "Oh my god!" Like
they don't. They can't. You can't really. I was just thinking, you can't do an intermission in a movie, can you? I mean, it doesn't really work.
They used to.
But they don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, like The Godfather had an intermission when it was in the theaters. I remember. Seven Samurai had an intermission.
I think there was a movie Tess. Remember the movie Tess with Nastasia Kinski?
That had an intermission.
I have no idea why I saw that movie. I was a kid. I was like 8 or 9. I think my sister wanted to go see it, and it was not appropriate for either one of us. But our parents were like, "All right," and they just dropped us off. It was a movie. I remember being so bored. It was like a love story, and she just gets naked at some point, and I was just like, "This is horrible." And then there was an intermission. All I was thinking was, "This is the longest experience." But you were just saying this is 2.5 hours. I thought maybe because I always point to, a lot of times people ask us about like comedy shows. They go, "How long is the running time?" I go, "It's about an hour and a half." Because if you go any longer, people start getting tired. I go, "Unless if you have an intermission," which I've seen before in comedy shows.
Well, like Australia, they do that.
Yeah.
You know, they take you. They
2001 had it. I think
2001 had an intermission. No, but no, they them that comedy shows, or sometimes that's the standard in Australia.
Yeah,
there's a couple acts, and then they take an intermission. And they serve more drinks, and then the whole show's about two and change. Like
Now, how many comics do you have on a show like that?
I think 4.
Well, even I did a show where there was 2 of us. It was me and it was an opening act and me. The guy did 20 minutes, and then they took an intermission. It was weird.
Really?
I was like, "Really?" They go, "Yep." They go, "We're going to take an intermission. We're going to get drinks, go to the bathroom. Then you come back and do an hour to hour and 20, whatever." But it works. So I'm just curious if it would work. Because the example I always use, I'm curious if it would work for a movie. I guess you have to do it the right way so that you have the right part of the movie so it doesn't, that's the problem. Like, you don't want to leave in the middle of whatever the best action sequence because I always point to Broadway. I go, Broadway has the best writers, best actors, best directors, best singers, most entertaining people in the world, and they still take an intermission. They go, "We're going to take an intermission, go pee and come back." They don't go 2 hours straight through.
It's an interesting thing. I wonder how that, with today's modern film-going audiences,
because they'd sell more concessions.
They would sell a hell of a lot more concessions. I wonder how that could work. That's an interesting to bring that idea. That's a great idea because obviously movies got that from Broadway.
Yeah,
they just implemented that same thing from Broadway.
Yeah, interesting. Anyway, you said 2.5 hours. I was thinking that's too long.
Yeah.
And part of me would think I would have to go to the bathroom probably at some point.
Yeah.
I don't want to miss any part of this movie.
Yeah.
You give me an intermission, I'll wait for it.
Give me an hour to an hour and a half, and then let me go. Give me the intermission. Come back and give me the last hour. Let's just write it right through, to.
Nice.
Now see what the review is.
You don't want to,
And I'll be like, "It was too short."
Yeah.
It was amazing. The second act could have used another half hour. I peed. I was ready to go. I had my popcorn.
That's interesting, though.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
All right. We're going to think about that. Yeah. Well, let's move on to our next. Let's do Mr. Peabody and Sherman.
Peabody and Sherman.
Oh, yeah.
Because somebody here saw it.
I saw it. Well, you know what it is, Chris, it's like with the kids, you just got to go see whatever they want to see. And it's interesting because...
How old are your kids?
I have a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old.
Okay.
And there's also different things. Now, the 3-year-old kind of doesn't necessarily sit through it all the time.
Yeah,
they're constantly,
I understand that.
They're doing their own intermission, I got to pee, I'll do this, I'll do that. So I went, and it's interesting because I went a while back to see, I think it was the Smurfs, and it was not that good. And they were
First
young
one or
enough.
the second one?
I forget which one it was, but it was and they were young enough where I wasn't even paying attention. My son just focuses. And then I was just checking my phone and like doing email and stuff, this summer I went to Peabody and I'm sitting there and I start texting and stuff. And my sweet little 3-year-old, they're your kids, they're your angels. She looks at me, she's like, Daddy, watch the movie. And I was like, oh, you're right. I was like, what am I doing? I was like, put this thing away. And I put it away, and it was a good movie. I actually enjoyed it. And it was fun because she would look at something and laugh and then kind of look at me to see if I'm laughing. And I was like, yeah, it's great. And it was good. I liked it. I liked Peabody.
Now, were you familiar with the Bullwinkle cartoons, like that it was based on?
Oh, was that based on Bullwinkle?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. What character was Peabody in the Bullwinkle cartoons?
The Bullwinkle cartoons was split up into, like, they would have different characters. They would Bullwinkle and
hey, Rocky, watch me pull the rabbit out of my
but then
hat.
the other segments would be, like, Fractured Fairy Tales, and then one of them would be Peabody and Sherman.
Oh, I don't remember those guys.
And Peabody and Sherman, the thing about it is that the boy, like, I know the movie from the trailers, it made it look like the boy was more like the dog was the father.
Yeah.
Well, in the cartoon, it was a little more biting, where the boy was his pet. It was Peabody and his pet boy Sherman.
Oh, that's funny.
And the boy was always really dumb, and he would have to be the smart one. But that's so I was wondering how much of that translated over to the movie.
No, there was none of that. I mean, I seen them. I didn't know about the other thing that he was considered the pet. So in this movie, it really was that he was the father and he'd adopted him, and they actually showed the history of that. Like he had, I think he finds him. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think he was either abandoned or something. He finds him, and then he's this very sophisticated dog. So they give him the kid, and then there's a mean lady who wants to take the kid away. But it was cool because what it was they traveled through history. So you ended up in different periods. It was really like there was
the Wayback Machine.
Wayback Machine, exactly. It was great. There was like a whole thing with like the Trojan horse, and it was just like anytime anyone uses any reference to history. Or we were talking about the Muppets, like when they go to different cities and stuff.
Right.
It's always, I think that lends itself a little bit to adults appreciating it as well.
Absolutely.
Do you feel like they did a decent job in terms of, were they even trying to sort of give kids a little history lesson wrapped up in sort of entertainment?
Absolutely. I think that there's that. I mean, it's funny, again, my 3-year-old and 5-year-old will come home from school and they'll recite stuff that they've learned. So my daughter just the other day, 3-year-old, is like, Daddy, they wouldn't let Cesar Chavez. They made him pick the grapes, and he couldn't pick the grapes, so and she's like reciting about Cesar Chavez, and then she's like, and she also had something about, she knew something about Rosa Parks. My son knew about Gandhi, so they're learning all this stuff, and a lot of it's just being told these stories of like, oh, it was not fair, and this and that. So that's where it's a lesson in school. Now, when they see it in a movie, I don't know how much of it they're grasping that, oh, this is the Trojan horse or anything of whatever. I'm trying to think what other times they went to. Oh, they went to Egypt. Like, I don't know if they're grasping that, but maybe they see a pyramid and they've heard about it in school. They go, oh, that's kind of cool.
Reinforces it.
Yeah.
Well, cool.
Well, that's good. I'm glad to hear that because I wasn't sure, how good that movie was from the trailer. But I've heard that from a couple people where it's like, you can actually enjoy it with your kids, one of those movies.
It is one of those. And it's amazing. The other thing I was talking about now, you guys talking about making movies, and just I'm realizing more and more how much advertising, obviously, is so important. And I was just reading about, I think it was Kevin Hart had the movie about Last Night that came out in February. I remember reading about it, and it said it cost something like $12 million to make, but $28 million in advertising. And I'm like, wow, well, that's how it gets out there. I mean, obviously he's doing a good job of getting out there anyway.
He's great on talk shows and all
yeah,
that
he's very good at that. But it goes beyond. And so you look at a thing like Peabody, and that was, I mean, I could not drive a block without my daughter going, Mr. Peabody, Mr. Peabody. Billboards were everywhere.
You can't turn and not see something about
it. Yeah.
So,
it's on a bus. It's on a park bench.
That marketing budget must have been huge.
Yeah, and so if you have kids, you're going to go because the kids are going to drive you nuts until you take them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the best.
That's the goal of the advertising.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it does the thing. It gets the kids excited about it. The kids had a great time, and when then you, the parent, can enjoy it, that's the perfect kids or family movie.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Hashtag work it.
Yeah.
Well, I want to talk about a documentary that I watched on Netflix. Obviously, I've been watching a lot of docs because of shooting our documentary, and I watched it's originally was a PBS documentary just called Johnny Carson, because PBS does this series and they've done whatever Johnny Cash, they've done just famous people, and then now they're all releasing them on Netflix, which has been awesome. And this documentary was, I loved it. I think obviously for people our age, we grew up with Johnny Carson, so it's really cool on that level because you're getting like, I didn't know his history, you know, where he started in radio and then he got into TV, and there's an interview with Johnny talking about, well, I got into TV was, you know, the late 40s, early 50s, because there was no money in TV. We did it because we loved it. And it was sort of like rang true because all these interviews I've been doing for earbuds about listening to all these podcasters, you know, some of them are making money now. A lot of them aren't. And they're still like, I just love podcasting so much. I don't care if it's making money. I'm going to keep doing it. It is very much like the early days of TV in terms of where it's going to go. And so that was fascinating. And, you know, and also, even if you didn't grow up, you know, if Carson was before your time, you really should watch this because he grew up, or he was on TV in a time when there was 3 stations, and he was the guy.
Right.
He had no competition. There wasn't Letterman and Fallon and Arsenio and all these other shows. He had no competition at all. And he averaged 15 million viewers a night on late night, you know, at whatever it's 11:30 slot on the East and West Coast.
Well, it wasn't the first talk show though, right? It wasn't like Steve Allen.
No. Well, Steve Allen was the first Tonight Show host. Then there was Jack Parr, and I didn't even realize this. They talked about Jack Parr was controversial. He had
concubines.
He had concubines. No, but he had Kennedy on there. He had politicians and would like ask provocative questions and was like really getting into heavy politics. And so when Johnny took over, he was more about being a comedian and being an entertainer, and he didn't settle into it initially.
Yeah.
And people were critical of him. Like, oh, I miss Jack Parr. Jack Parr was really getting at stuff.
People don't like change.
Yeah.
Well, it takes a minute to adjust. I think even a lot of these guys, I've never heard of a talk show host coming in and right away hitting it out of the park.
Better.
You know, Conan was one where he was
real stiff.
he was awkward at first, and
he wasn't
great.
an on-camera guy. He was just a writer.
Yeah, even Jimmy Fallon. I remember seeing Jimmy Fallon when he first started, and I could tell. I said he's very likable. I said it's gonna grow, and it's grown on people. It takes time for it to grow, you know. But you're right. I saw that documentary too, and I think first of all, I'm in love with documentaries. They're great. But the thing you also realize is I just love how it put things in perspective, and also tells you the history, like all the stuff that went down with like Joan Rivers, and just some of the stuff where he was kind of a curmudgeon in some ways and wanted to be a private person, but he was this public person. And then you realize, I mean, these guys. It's like comedians. I mean, our lives. How many comedians do we know that are lovable on stage? People are laughing at them, and they come off stage and they're very awkward because it's just because everybody wants you to be that person. You know, I mean, that's got to be amazingly hard for somebody like Johnny Carson to, you know, can you imagine at the time the level of stardom that he had? Everywhere he went, people were like, "Hey, Johnny, here's a joke." You know,
every single person in America knew who he was. Everyone, even if you didn't want everybody knew who Carson was, and anything that happened, they talk about this in the doc. Anything that happened in politics or whatever in the news, everyone in America went, "Oh, I wonder how what's he gonna say?
Yeah,
how's he gonna do this interview?"
Yeah,
and you know that they talked about the stresses of that. You know, there's plenty of people in America who probably don't know who Jimmy Fallon or Kimmel or Conan because it's, you know, they're all competing against each other and everything's so fractionalized with cable and the internet. But it was like Walter Cronkite.
Yeah.
Every single person knew who he was. And hearing stuff like Doc Severinsen saying, "Oh, I was intimidated by him."
Yeah.
Like, you're working with the guy for 30 years or whatever. Yeah. You were intimidated. And Joan Rivers saying, "Oh, he could be mean."
Yeah.
You know?
And he was kind of, I mean, a lot of people in the comedy world know this, but people that aren't in the comedy world don't. He was a kingmaker. It was kind of like, you know,
that was the time where, those shows had a lot it power.
Yeah.
That's everyone always talked about that. If Carson called you to the couch, first to get on the show, and then it became a thing where if he was like, "Come on over to the couch," then it was like you were just anointed right there on the spot. It happened. And if he didn't, if he was like, "Wow, good stuff," then it was like,
Yeah.
You know, it was like, oh, you had a bad season.
And all these guys, it's great. I love actually going to, you can just go to YouTube and just look at clips of all these different comedians who started, their first sets, whether it's Seinfeld or Eddie Murphy or Arsenio Hall, all these guys. They all showed up and did their thing, and they're all nervous. They all have stories about it. David Brenner, who recently passed away, a lot of these guys, you can see their first sets, and it's pretty amazing. And then you also realize something that people don't realize, again, that aren't in the comedy world. You realize how long it takes somebody to make it. Somebody was telling me Jeff Dunham was on the Tonight Show, and I was like, with Johnny Carson, and I was like, oh wow, I didn't know he'd been around that long. But he's been around. Like these people, everyone's been around for a long time.
Yeah, it's not overnight.
Yeah.
Yeah, Louis C.K. didn't just appear.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? None of these guys just appeared, and this documentary is fascinating.
Yeah.
So if you, obviously, many of you guys who listen to the show, you're fans of comedy and stuff like that. It's really worth watching. It's a great history lesson about comedy and about TV, and showing you the late night where it started, and also they started to talk about how, and this is what I remember as a kid, Johnny would laugh like he was having a blast, and I always just felt like I was watching these when I was a kid. I'd be like, I'm hanging out with these adults and watching them, these showbiz people just laugh and goof off.
Yeah.
I really felt like I got to kind of hang out. It's sort of like, again, tying it back to the interviews we've been doing for Earbuds, listening to fans say, oh, I feel like I know you guys, I'm friends with you guys, I get to hang out with you guys because you're in my ears every night. That's what it was for me growing up, and most Americans at the time. I'd watch Carson at night as a kid. I was like, I get to hang out with the showbiz adults and make jokes and sex jokes.
They'd be like smoking and
drinking,
stuff.
Yeah, they're just Dean Martin.
Funny, right?
I mean, Dean Martin would always be on there with a cocktail and a cigarette, and it was just like you were hanging out at this Hollywood cocktail party.
Yeah. And
Carson would laugh all the time. I absolutely love. There's jokes of his I still remember when Richard Pryor set himself on fire from smoking cocaine.
Yeah, crack.
Before it was called crack back then.
Yeah.
They called it freebasing. Johnny Carson's joke was Richard Pryor is starting a new charity for the Ignited Negro College Fund. I remember we all had Carson impressions. Everybody, I've done it with the Sklar brothers. Ed, like everyone, that's all you had to do was little did we know. Everyone did a Carson impression.
Well, that's when you could also do impressions of all the guests too, like Carson interviewing like Dean Martin or something. Man. That's those an impressionist's dream. Or Jerry Lewis or whoever.
I remember seeing. What am I blanking on his name? The famous impressionist comic from the 70s.
Rich Little.
Rich Little.
Yeah.
When he would come on, when he would do Johnny Carson, like you almost. It's like watching a really great tribute band.
Oh, yeah.
Like, oh, this Van Halen tribute band's fucking amazing. Like Rich Little, when he would do Johnny Carson, you'd be like, oh, shit. Like, I would get chills watching it because it was so on the money.
That's funny.
All right, well, let's move on now to...
Yeah, let's talk about Maz's films. Now, you actually were just in one, and then you also just made one. Let's talk about the one you were in, Shirin in Love.
Yeah, I was in a movie called Shirin in Love. Shirin is a Persian female name. It's it's actually Shirin, Shirin, Shirin in Love, and it stars the girl, Nazanin Boniadi, who's the girl from Homeland. I don't know if you guys watch it or not, but she plays a CIA agent in Homeland, or like an interpreter or analyst or something. But she's it was fun to do. We did this movie. It came out independently, and we were talking about the budgets and all this stuff.
Sure.
This was a very low budget movie. Didn't have a big marketing budget, so the director, writer, this guy named Ramin Niami. He basically, got it released in several theaters around the country, and the storyline. I always say it's like a Persian big fat Greek wedding, but not as zany, So it was. She plays this girl who's engaged to an Iranian doctor, played by me, and she falls in love with an American writer, played by Riley Smith, who's a guy who is another actor who did a lot of TV and stuff, and I think he's done some film. And but it was good. It was it kind of brings these two worlds together. It's a comedy. It's a romantic comedy. It's one of those things where a lot of times you're in something and you go, is it my type of movie? Not necessarily. Is it the first thing I go see? Not necessarily. Is it a movie that I think is fun? Yes. It's a romantic comedy. So I just tell guys, I go, take a date. And I think that they'll enjoy it. And so hopefully it'll come out on DVD and VOD and all that stuff. And it's amazing just watching the hustle that this director had to put in, like going to different places and being at screenings.
It's
and
nonstop.
Please go see my movie. Please don't copy my movie and distribute it. Please, and it's amazing. I thought he did a great job. I think the cinematography for the budget he had, I think he did a really good job. And it was a movie that I was proud of. So, yeah, they came out, and I don't know if it's out anymore, but people can go to ShirinInLove.com, SHIRIN in love.
How did you get the part?
I got the part because the guy had wanted me to be in the movie. I think he knew me from my stand-up, and he said, I got this movie, and I kind of want you to be in there, be a little bit of comic relief, and play the fiancé. And I said, as a matter of fact, it was kind of funny. He originally wanted me to play her dad. I was like, how old is this girl? And how old do I look? I was like, you out of your mind? And he's like, no, I think you'd be good. I was like, dude, who's the girl? And he's like, Nazanin. I go, Nazanin, I know Nazanin. Like I was like, no, I can't play her dad. I was like, it was just, as much as I'd love to play a little bit older, but if Nazanin is even if she's in her mid-20s to late 20s, I'm 42. I can't play her dad. It's not going to work. So, then he was like, oh, how about this other part? He kind of beefed it up a little bit. And I said, sure. And then we went. And it was fun. What was fun, too, was that he got a group of people. I knew some of the other actors from just doing stand-up with them or just knowing them from here and there. And it's always nice. You understand why a guy like Scorsese uses the same actors. Absolutely. Or anybody uses the same. Yes. You want to get an ensemble that has a shorthand. And that's kind of what happened, and it was great. It was a really good experience.
Did he give you a lot of latitude to improvise and stuff like that?
Yeah, there was. I think he wanted us to do that. There's a comedian named Max Amini who was in there, and there was another actor who I know named Sam Golzari, and there were some scenes where we'd just be sitting around as like we're supposed to be buddies. So it wasn't even written. He would be like, "Here's what's written," but kind of have fun with it, and that's always fun too. And then sometimes. They give you that freedom and you go a little too far. George Wallace was in it, actually.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Sometimes you go a little too far, then he's like, no, you gotta bring it, dial it back. Yeah. So, no, it was fun. It was a good experience, and it's nice to see. It's just, I have so much respect for filmmakers, like having gone through the other film that I made, that it's tough.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work.
We're well aware of that.
It's crazy.
And then you get it out and you're like, this is my baby, and you're like, please watch it. And some reviewer goes, I hate this, and you go, you know what? I hate you.
Yeah, fuck you.
I'm gonna find you.
You feel like De Niro in The Untouchables, like fuck you and your family.
Exactly.
I'll fucking hunt you down. Well, let's talk about the other movie that you've done.
Yeah.
It's Jimmy Westwood?
Yeah, the other one is Jimmy Westwood, American Hero.
American Hero.
Yeah, and it's Westwood pronounced with, it's like Westwood, but with V's. And basically, this is a movie I've been trying to get made for like 10 years.
You directed this? Or?
I starred in it. I wrote it with another. Yeah, produced it. Me and another guy named Amir Ohepsian, we co-wrote it. Mm-hmm. The director was Jonathan Kesselman, who had directed a movie called The Hebrew Hammer that came out with Adam Goldberg years ago, kind of a cult hit. And we have another producer named Ray Mohit who's on there, who's my manager, but he produced as well. But it it took us like 10 years of rewrites, just on and on and on, just constantly writing it. It went through first of all, let me tell you.
Comedy?
It's a comedy. Okay. It's called Jimmy Westwood. It's basically the story of a guy in Iran who's obsessed with being an American hero because he's a big fan of Steve McQueen's. So he wants to be like an American hero. So he finally wins the green card lottery to come to America. And he comes to America, and the best job he can get is working as a security guard at a Persian grocery store. And then he somehow finds himself in the middle of this plot to start World War III, and he's got to save the day. Yeah, so it's silly comedy. I call it the Persian Pink Panther. That's kind of what it is.
That's a great tagline.
Yeah, it is. And the other line we have for it is, the line is, you don't have to be American to be an American hero, which
that's a great
which is what it is, and And it's a silly comedy, and I'll tell you, going through it, first of all, about 10 years of rewrites and the sort, and it changed a lot. The story changed a lot.
Why?
Just because it was just, we would write it, we couldn't find anyone to produce it, we didn't have the money. We would get somebody who would say, look, in 2008, some guy was like, I'll put up whatever you need. Like, he was going to put in like $1.5 million at the time. And then we got on the phone with lawyers, all this stuff, great. And then the stock market crashed. And he's like, oh, I can't do it.
Disappeared.
Then this other guy shows up. He's like, I'm the biggest roofer in the East Coast. He's like, and I want to be in movies. And it's amazing. Actually, a buddy of mine made a movie. There's a couple movies that come to mind. One is the one that Alec Baldwin just made with, was it James Toback? Is that his name? The documentary called Seduced and Abandoned. You haven't seen that?
No.
Oh, if you like documentaries, go to HBO. It's on HBO's, you could watch it on demand or watch it at HBO Go.
Oh, cool.
It's called Seduced and Abandoned. It's about James Toback and Alec Baldwin. They go to the Cannes Film Festival to raise money to make a movie. And it's great to watch because there's all these investors and they're like, yeah, you got Alec Baldwin and Neve Campbell? Ooh. He's like, all right, I'll give you $5 million. And like, well, we need 20 million. He's like, well, if you want 20 million, get me Charlize Theron. Like, it's crazy. Straight up. You got to go see this. It's a great movie. And then another movie a buddy of mine made, this guy named Payman Kalia, he made a movie called Kingdom Come, and it was another documentary. It's a documentary about his friend who's trying to get a movie made, and he follows him around, and he interviews a lot of different filmmakers. And I remember this one scene with Tim Roth. He's interviewing Tim Roth, and he goes, yeah. He's like, these investors, there's always some rich billionaire. He's always got a yacht right there. He's like, there's my yacht. And he's like, yeah, I'm totally in. He's like, I'm in for your movie. And then the guy just disappears. And we kind of went through that. Like, all these people would come through, like, I want to do it. And then they would disappear. And I think part of it is, look, there's a reason why these people are rich, because they're good investors. And movies, as you know, are major risks. So they're like, I have no idea if your movie's going to make it or not. So I'm not going to give you my money.
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons why it took so long. And it wasn't until, in the fall of 2012, we said, let's just do an Indiegogo campaign and see if we can get some money. And this is a whole other thing. It's like, you put it up, and like, at the time I had like, let's say 150,000 people on my Facebook page, and I had like 20-something thousand on my Twitter page, and I had like an 18 or 20,000 person email list. And I go, listen, if just everyone puts $1, we'll make like 100 and something grand.
We just did a Kickstarter campaign. So
yeah.
We understand the numbers completely.
And you're like, what? And you put it, and we put it out there, and it was like crickets. It was like 2 weeks go by, and we'd made like 7,000, and we'd set our goal at like 200,000. And part of it was Indiegogo, so it was flex funding, so you keep whatever you make.
Right.
But with 7,000, I'm not getting anywhere.
Yeah.
Freaking out. So I talked to my web guy. I'm like, what's the deal? I go, I got 150,000 people on Facebook. What's going on? He's like, let me break it down for you. And he looks at the demographics. Anybody can look at them. And he's like, well, let's say 30,000 of those people are in Egypt, like 20,000 are in Jordan, 10,000. It was all over the world. And I was like, okay, so I can't make a movie, but I can start a revolution. Like, meet me at Tahrir Square.
Send out some green scarves.
I'm ready to go. So it was funny. So then we're freaking out. And then I learned a lot. I talked to a guy who'd done some successful Indiegogo campaigns, and he told me, he was an inventor. And he goes, look, anytime I just went without preparation, he goes, it bombed. He goes, the times that I've had success, he goes, I spent about a year. I don't know what his invention was. He goes, I spent a year talking about...
He invented Indiegogo.
He invented Indiegogo. No, he said he spent a year talking to, just talking to people at different places that would be like, I think it was a tech thing. So he's like, you go to tech places, talk to people, be like, hey, I've got this invention. If I ever launched, would you be willing to put some money in? And everybody was like, sure, I'll put 1,000 towards your thing. So he goes, I got like 10 or 20 people to commit 1,000, so that when I would go, boom, right away 20,000. So if someone goes and looks at it and goes, oh, he's already at 20, I should give some money. Because if you're not nowhere close to your number, people don't give the money.
It's the weirdest thing. The closer you get, the more people want to be involved.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
the weirdest thing.
Yeah. So he was saying that's one thing. And the other thing he suggested, he goes, organize an event, a fundraiser, a party, something around your thing. So like 3/4 of the way in, have this party so that you get another infusion of money coming in. And then if you got a guy who's willing to give you big money, tell him to wait till the end, because he goes, that end is really the little marathon. I'm sorry, it's the sprint at the end of the marathon. So anyway, long story short, we ran around and finally found some guy who was able to put a little fundraiser together for us. And we went up to Silicon Valley. There was a lot of people that there's a lot of people that have internet money. And they showed up and they supported, and in one night we raised like almost $100,000.
Oh, that's great!
And that took our campaign from like 7,000 to 107,000. So we ended, a little bit higher than that, and it was great because then we had the money. Now we have for the beginning of the movie, to the beginning of the funding, and so Amir and I were like, Amir Ray and I, the producers, were like, well, now we have to make a movie because we've got this money. What are we going to do? And it was...
Now, did you have to promise rewards, too? Like you did, like the movie, things like that?
Well, a lot of the rewards were things like being a comedian is great because you go, hey, I'll give you 4 VIP tickets to my any show that I'm in, whenever. And people come to my shows anyway, so they're like, oh, great. I'm going to give you $250. I get 4 VIP tickets. I get to meet you before the show. Fantastic. It's something. Or here, $25, get a T-shirt, whatever.
Right.
We did a couple of like... We had it up as like $1,000 gets you a part in the movie, but then we were told that SAG doesn't allow that. So then we're like, okay, yeah, there's all kinds of rules. It's interesting because crowdfunding is interesting because there's the rules of SAG, Screen Actors Guild. You're not supposed to take money from somebody and then put them in a movie. This happens all the time, but you're not supposed to do that. The other thing, the other bigger one is the IRS has no idea how to deal with. They're like, how do we deal with this crowdfunding? Is it income or is it a gift?
We were talking about that from with our accountant too.
Yeah,
and just a little inside baseball thing is like, the best thing you can do is spend the money the same year that you make it because then it's income and expenses all in the same.
Exactly, and that's where we ran into. Sorry, I keep looking at my phone. My wife has someone. We have someone fixing the TV, and she's got to leave and whatever. I'm just making sure. So.
That's a little too inside bit.
That's a little too inside bit. So what happened was exactly what you just said. We're like, well, now we have to make the movie in 2013 because we did the crowdfunding ended in 2013. So now we have to make the movie, or we're gonna have to run into the situation of like, what are we doing? So then we set out on finding other investors, and it was great. Having $100,000 helps.
Right.
You go, hey, we already have 100. What do you want? And then every investor I found, a couple of my friends, one old friend of mine who has done well in stock market stuff, he stepped up, and it was just so great to have him. And I said, listen, dude, this could be a money losing venture. And he was very sweet about it. He goes, listen, man, I'm a big man. I'm a big boy. I know it's all right. I want to be part of this. But what was interesting was almost every investor was like, okay, so what do you got? And I was like, okay, I've rounded up 5, 6 different investors, and every one of them was like, well, okay, I want to be the last money in. And I was like, okay.
And the first money out.
And they're all the first money out, but it's like they all want to be, like they wanted to make sure when they put their money in that it's ready to go. And then I was talking to our lawyer who was like, well, just tell them they're all the last money because as soon as their money's all in, then you guys are ready to go. And it's been such a learning experience just along the way. And so, so we finally, we got the money in, and last year we took 3 weeks, 18 days, did 3 6-days, 6-day weeks, 3 weeks, 6 days a week, like 12 to 14 hours a day. Just shot it all around LA. It was amazing because I was in almost every scene, but I was running so high on adrenaline that I just was like the whole movie. I didn't get tired. I was like, even when I wasn't in a scene, I was there watching, giving notes. We got John Hurd to play the main bad guy. Remember, John Hurd? He played the main bad guy. I got a lot of my friends to be in it, which was so much fun. And it was an experience that it was just, I always tell people in this field, in acting and comedy, I go, create your own opportunities. And whenever I say that, I'm also advising myself to do it again, because it's like, I went out all pilot season. I would go on auditions and I'd be looking at the part. I was like, this isn't me. This is that guy sitting across from me. That guy, you've written it for that. Like, it would say like, whatever, say like, frumpy best friend who's got, curly hair and, snot coming out of his nose. I look across, there's a guy sitting there. I was like, that's the guy. Like, why am I here? So it's been a great experience, and we're in post now, and we'll see where this adventure takes us.
It's part of the reason why, and then we got to move on a little bit, but it's part of the reason why you made this movie yourself was just the roles you're offered in Hollywood are just like terrorist number 5, and
absolutely, yeah. I think that I've been lucky that I did
a wacky neighbor with snot coming out of his
nose. No, I was lucky that I early on in my career did a couple of terrorist parts, and then I instantly realized I don't like those, and I just was like, forget it, I'm out of this. I'm not gonna do it anymore. And then I was able to do like donut shop owner or or cab driver and all, and I don't mind those parts because I go, listen, I know these people, I know Middle Eastern people that have these things, but I also wanted a guy to be kind of a hero of someone of Middle Eastern descent saving the day. And being kind of a bumbling idiot because I was a big fan of Pink Panther as a kid. So I was like, let's just do that, and it was fun. It was so much fun to have control. It was so amazing because I did this movie, again, being one of the co-writers and the star and one of the producers. It was great. We'd be in a scene and we'd do it, and then I go, hey, I'm going to try it like this now. Hey, why don't you try it like this? Why don't you improvise this scene? Go for it. And we could just do it. There was no one to answer to. We just did it. And
you were the suit on set.
I was the suit on set, exactly. And it was amazing because like a week or two after this, I got a guest star on a 4-camera CBS show, and I just remember running the scene as the suits had come, the network so it was the network and the studio had come to watch the studio run through, and there was like 30 or 40 people watching us. And then we finished and we walked away, and then they were giving notes to the writers. And I was like, no wonder why it's so hard to get good comedy because you're doing it by committee, and it's an art form.
And these aren't even comedic. They don't have no comedic training.
They have no comedic training. And I was saying, like, this is the only art form. Like painters, like painters don't stand in front of a canvas with 30 people behind them and go, guys,
with
orange or red.
Fucking guys.
Yeah, business guys, right?
We focus grouped, and we need you to paint it this way.
God,
like fucking shut it.
Yeah.
Can you make those clouds younger?
Yeah, exactly. Clouds. That's funny, right? That's funny. Make those clouds younger.
Well, I don't know if people in the middle of the country are going to get that painting.
Yeah.
How the fuck do you know?
Yeah.
I love when they say to us comedians, like, "Oh, the middle of the country won't get it."
Yeah.
You mean those clubs that I destroy at?
Yeah, exactly.
When I'm on the road?
Yeah. Oh my God, it's so true. I did a weekend in Kansas City, and I have no draw there. And so I was like, let's just try it. And we tried it and realized that I don't have a draw, but the club had to paper the room. And then I look in the audience, like the second or third night, it's packed. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh wow, word got out. Well, no, word didn't get out. They papered the room. But it was like,
which for those listening, that means giving away passes.
They give away passes. But the audience was not at all what I would consider to be my fan base. It was just like, I was looking out and they look rednecky, trucker hats and stuff. But it was amazing. After the show, they're coming up going like, hey, man, I really enjoyed it. That was really cool, man. I had a great time. Like, and you go exactly what you just said. You go, wait a minute. They're not as dumb as you think they are.
Suits in show business in New York and L.A. have no fucking idea how the rest of the country thinks. And they go, well, we focus grouped it. Your focus group is a bunch of goddamn meth heads or people coming out of a fucking methadone clinic.
Yeah.
We focus group it every night. We're at the Kansas City Improv, at the Columbus Funny Bone, at the fucking Comedy Club in Bloomington, Indiana. You don't know what you're talking about.
When After Dark pulled that shit with me, they're like, oh, we focus. No, you showed it to a few interns. That's what you did. Yeah.
Oh no, this really good focus group company. The minute you say focus group, you're dead to me.
Yeah,
you make no sense.
Yeah, but also the fact is that some people are going to love it, some people are going to hate it. So it's just like, let's find our fan base. That's all. Let's find a way.
Everyone doesn't have to love you.
Yeah,
and that's the other thing too. When you do this comedy by committee with Suits, they want everyone to like it, and it's like, no, comedy is subjective.
Yeah.
Bill Cosby said, I don't know the key to success, but the key to failure is try to please everyone.
Try to please everybody.
Yeah.
Be your...
And that's the most, middle of the road comedian you could get. Right. And he's saying the exact same advice that Bill Hicks would say.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. All right, so Jimmy Vestwood, let's...
Put it on your radar.
Put on your radar. Let us know when it's out, and we'll
have you back to
absolutely.
We'll plug it
Thanks,
up.
Guys.
So,
yeah.
All right, let's move to
DVD.
DVD.
Ride Along. This is the Kevin Hart vehicle.
Oh yeah.
Did not see it, although if you're a Kevin Hart fan, you probably saw it. Did not get well reviewed, but the interesting thing about the reviews all pretty much said that Kevin Hart deserves better than this movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
probably for what we're talking about,
right?
You know what I mean, they jammed him into something, and he tried to make the most of it.
Yeah. The Nut Job. Were you lucky enough to not have your children make you see this?
I actually had to go see The Nut Job, and I think I don't remember it that well. I think that I might have been checking texts and emails.
It was the squirrel movie.
Yeah,
you got a lot of work done during The Nut Job.
Yeah,
Thank
God, my kids did not want to see this movie.
Yeah.
Secret Life of Walter Mitty.
I saw it. I was surprised. I was pleasantly surprised by it. It's not the short story that was written however many years ago. It's a very inventive thing, and as I've said, I've been pretty critical of Ben Stiller on this show. I think he does a good job with this. If you didn't get to see it in the theaters, I think it's worth a rental. I think it's worth watching.
And this is the next one too is one that I actually missed, and I've been really trying to get is Philomena.
I'm going to see this. This is definitely one of those Oscar films that slipped through the cracks for me that I want to check out.
Again, it's one of those movies like I'm trying to find it, and it's not playing anywhere, even in L.A.
You can get it on. I think can't you get it on just like on the Apple TV or something like or on iTunes?
Now you can. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to seeing that. And then coming out this week, Transcendence, the Johnny Depp weird science Tron movie.
He was on Letterman. He didn't seem too convinced himself.
I'm not surprised.
He even said he's like I didn't see it. He goes I didn't see it, but
he's like but would have been really funny if he actually Lone Ranger was better.
That's funny,
but this movie looks so bad and so dated. I don't. It's definitely we're like. We're in April right now, so somehow somebody held a February release into April, maybe thinking, well, it's Johnny Depp, maybe we'll get people to come.
Yeah.
Haunted House 2, I don't think there's anything we could say to persuade you either way on that movie. You're either going to see it or you're not, regardless of what anyone says. Bears, this is a nature documentary.
That's John C. Reilly's the narrator,
which is hilarious because he sounds like a cartoon bear,
like kind of Fozzie the Bear. He is kind of like Fozzie.
Yeah. I mean, you feel like he's going to a stream, and you just kind of hear his voice, like I'm hungry.
Right. Was that Bane?
Yeah, that was.
Was that a Bane?
I'm hungry.
I'm Salmon Reckoning.
Yes.
So go see Bane Bear,
Mr. Cellophane.
That's funny.
Okay.
So I think what we're saying this week is if you haven't seen Captain America or The Raid 2,
now's your
chance. The theaters won't be as crowded.
Yeah.
And if you have kids that are dying to see a movie, take them to Bears.
Or Mr. Peabody.
Or Mr. Peabody.
Is Bears going to be a kids movie too?
It's a nature.
Oh, okay.
It's a nature documentary.
Oh, maybe I'll do that.
It actually follows one family of bears around.
Okay.
Where they argue.
Is that an adorable
Yeah.
Oh, that's precious.
Yep.
And then they get shot at the end by a hunter. It's amazing.
Spoiler alert. All right. Well, I think that's our program, ladies and gentlemen.
That was a full show.
Nice. We packed in a lot of business in there. All right. Thank you so much, Maz Jobrani, for being on the program.
First time, Greg.
First time.
Yeah, it was fine. Thanks for having me.
Where can people find you on the internet?
At Maz Jobrani, MazJobrani. Facebook.com/Maz Jobrani, YouTube/Maz Jobrani, MazJobrani.com, Maz Jobrani. No, that's it. That's all I got. I got Instagram. It's just I think I got to be Maz Jobrani. Except once in a while, someone from China keeps emailing me and telling me that someone's trying to buy my domain name in China. I think it's a scam.
No.
I think. Well, okay, fine.
Give them your bank info.
Okay, good. I will. I'm going to send them my social.
Yeah, those guys helped me out with the Nigerian lottery. So I'm doing
fantastic.
fine.
Invested it for you?
Yeah. Everything's going great. It's going great. So yeah, guys, at the very least, just Google Maz Jobrani, and I think you will find
something will come up.
Something
will come up. Maybe you get an account in China.
And check out Sheeran in Love, and of course look for Jimmy Vestwood, American Hero. All right, so that is
the program.
That is our program. I do want to thank everybody that came out to see Doug Benson and myself in Raleigh, Charlotte, and Asheville. Those were good shows. And of course, I will be at Doug Benson and myself will be at Wise Guys in Salt Lake City, April 17th. Cobb's in San Francisco for our 420 Eve show on the 19th of April. And Doug is, of course, recording his album April 20th, 420 at Helium in Portland. And then we will be at the Wow Hall in Eugene, Oregon on April 21st. So check those out.
I think we should announce the May 7th show.
Oh, shit, you're right. God, I'm an idiot. Yeah, May 7th, we're doing our annual Comedy Film Nerd Summer Movie Preview. We're doing it at the Improv.
Yes, with Doug Benson.
With Doug Benson will come on, and the two people who donated
Yes, the Doug Benson tier on Kickstarter.
The Doug Benson tier. So those two people who donated to
you will be getting a survey shortly.
Yes.
I'll be sending out to get your info.
And you're going to be on the show, and we'll play Little Leonard Maltin.
It'll be great.
It'll be great. So that's May 7th at the Hollywood Improv, 8162 Melrose Avenue. So check that out. And I think we're going to do. They'll probably have a coupon code, like coupon code CFN for that show. The tickets will be like, I don't know, $10-15, but I think coupon code CFN will get you in for $5.
We'll knock it down for you.
Yeah, we'll get it down to a reasonable cost. So come on out, you guys. Got to support this show on May 7th in Hollywood. Ba-boom. And, of course,
Still working on the documentary. And like I said, thank you so much for supporting everything here, especially the store and the Kickstarter. We could not do this without you, and we really appreciate it.
You guys are awesome, man, the way you're supporting the film and independent filmmaking and all that stuff. So thank you once again to our guest, Maz Jobrani. My name is Graham Elwood.
And I'm Chris Mancini. And as always, remember,
Han shot first.
Trunk Club.
Nice.